I worked 90-hour weeks to pay off her med school. On graduation day, she said, I need someone at my level now. Her new boyfriend took the keys to my car and my house. I just nodded, grabbed my toolbox, and walked out. 2 years later, he was gone. She was crying on my porch, holding our wedding album. Please come back. I watched him drive away in my car, his hand on the wheel, her head resting on his shoulder, while I stood there holding the last screwdriver from my toolbox. That's all I took. One screwdriver. Didn't even lock the door behind me. I just walked. She had waited until graduation day to say it. Right as the ceremony ended. Right as the applause was still fading. I need someone at my level now. That was her opening line. Not, thank you. Not, we did it. Not, can you believe I'm finally a doctor? I need someone at my level. I worked 90-hour weeks for 4 years to make sure her loans were paid off before she walked across that stage. 3 jobs. No vacations. No weekends. I laid tile in the freezing cold, ran electrical wiring through walls that stank of rat piss, and drove 80-mile round trips delivering rental equipment just to make ends meet. My hands never healed. My back gave out more than once. She used to rub it with that peppermint oil stuff before bed. But on graduation day, she handed me her bouquet, posed for pictures with her new boyfriend, her attending supervisor, and told me in front of her parents he's who I'm moving forward with. And then he asked for the keys. To my car. My house. My damn life. And I gave them to him. Didn't flinch. Didn't argue. Just nodded, grabbed my old red toolbox from the garage, and walked down the street like a man taking himself off life support. The next 3 months were noise and concrete. I moved in with an old coworker, crashed on a futon in a dusty shop corner, and kept my mouth shut. I worked 12, 15, sometimes 20 hours at a stretch. The noise helped. The tools helped. Anything that didn't involve thinking about what I'd just given up. Because it wasn't just her. It was the years. The inside jokes. The ramen nights during finals. The Friday movie marathons. The whispered promises between yawns when she said she didn't care about money, that she just wanted someone who believed in her. I believed in her so hard I forgot to believe in myself. And when she left, it was like watching my own reflection walk away. But let's rewind for a second. Before the med school bills, before the 3 jobs, before the betrayal, I was just a guy in work boots who fell for a girl who smelled like lavender and talked about saving lives. We met at a used bookstore. I was fixing the ceiling fan. She knocked over an entire display trying to reach a copy of Being Mortal. Apologized 100 times while I helped her resac everything. Then she stayed. Talked. Asked if I believed in second chances. I said I hadn't needed one yet, but figured I probably would someday. She smiled. Gave me her number written on a bookstore receipt. We moved in together 6 months later. She worked part-time. Volunteered at a clinic on weekends. Said she was building a resume med schools couldn't ignore. I believed her. So when she got into her top choice, full tuition but no living stipend, I said, we'll make it work. She cried in my arms. Said no one had ever believed in her that much. She called me her future. And for 4 years I made that future happen. Paid every bill. Cooked every meal. Bought every textbook. Stood in line for hours to grab used medical equipment off Craigslist. Fixed our car with duct tape and stubbornness. Built her a desk from scrap wood so she could study without hunching over the kitchen table. And every time I wanted to quit, she'd kiss my forehead and say, just a little longer. Then it's our turn. I was dumb enough to believe her. Fast forward to that day in June, her in a cap and gown, me in a shirt 2 sizes too big from losing weight I didn't notice was gone. Her parents, always polite but chilly, suddenly warm and chatty. Then he appeared. Dr. Ryan Marshall. 6 foot whatever. Expensive watch. Gelled hair that never moved. The kind of jawline that gets people cast as surgeons in medical dramas. He shook my hand like I was a janitor. Called me Mike. My name is Michael. Then like it was the next scene in a play she said it. I need someone at my level now. And just like that I was replaced. She didn't cry. Didn't flinch. Just walked off, her new man beside her, arm around her waist like he'd been waiting backstage. I spent that night in a motel that smelled like bleach and broken dreams. Ate vending machine beef jerky. Stared at the water-stained ceiling until the morning sun burned through the blinds. That was day 1. Day 2, I went back to work. Told my boss I wanted every shift he could give me. Told him I'd take night calls, emergency repairs, weekend installs, whatever. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me the clipboard. The next year was a blur. I lived in a steel box, ate from gas stations, and rebuilt myself brick by bloody brick. No contact. No messages. I didn't stalk her socials. Didn't ask friends for updates. Just disappeared. Until 2 years later. Right after Thanksgiving. I just closed on my first property. A beat-up duplex in a dying part of town that I planned to flip. I was tired, covered in drywall dust, but proud. Hadn't thought about her in weeks. Then came the knock. It was 8:12 p.m. I remember because I was watching the repair guy install my new water heater. Thought it was him coming back in. But no, it was her. In a sweater too big for her. Hair messy. Makeup streaked. holding our wedding album. She was crying. Please come back. And I just leaned on the doorframe, didn't say a word. She stood there like the ghost of a bad decision, trembling under porch light. Said she made a mistake. Said he wasn't who she thought. That he'd moved on to someone younger. That he never loved her. That he used her. That he laughed when she cried. She said she remembered the peppermint oil, the ramen nights, the Friday movies. She said she knew now what I gave up, what I gave her. She said I was the only man who ever built something for her instead of asking what she could provide. I said nothing. She held out the album like a peace offering. I didn't know where else to go. Behind her, a car idled in the street. Not his, just a lift. I stepped outside into the cold, looked her dead in the eye and said, "You didn't lose me the day you left. You lost me the moment you saw everything I gave as not enough." She reached for my hand. I stepped back. "You said you needed someone at your level," I said. "Turns out, I'm above it." Then I walked back inside. Didn't slam the door. Just shut it soft. Let the silence say what my rage never could. Because now I build for me. And every time I walk past that wedding album she left behind, I remember, some people don't deserve the things we build for them. And some tools aren't meant to be shared. Edit 1. To the guy who messaged me, "Bet you still miss her." No, I don't. I miss the man I was before I gave my soul away for someone who priced it like a coupon. Edit 2. Yes, I still have the album. Not out of sentiment. I use it to mark the turning point in my story. A caution sign dressed as a keepsake. Update 1. She came back, and this time she brought a lawyer. She knocked again the next Sunday. Same time, same porch light. But this time she wasn't holding a wedding album. She was holding a manila envelope. And standing beside her, arms crossed like he was waiting to serve a subpoena, was a man in a tailored suit and teeth too white for this zip code. "This is David," she said. "My legal counsel." No tears, no shaky voice, just precision. I didn't invite them in, didn't even say hello. Just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the same way I did when she left with my car, my keys, and my life 2 years earlier. "David has some paperwork," she continued. He cleared his throat like this was some boardroom negotiation. "We're here to discuss shared property, potential financial entanglements, and the redistribution of assets accumulated during the course of your legal union." I laughed, not because it was funny, because I could still hear her voice from that graduation day. "I need someone at my level now." And here she was, 2 years later, trying to claw back the scraps of what she'd thrown away. "Let me stop you right there," I said. "There's nothing left to divide." He opened the folder like he was about to pitch me on a timeshare. Except instead of brochures, it was screenshots, bank statements, receipts, photos, every deposit I ever made into her med school account, every tuition payment that came from my checks, every utility, every meal, every gas bill from the years she was studying, while I was breaking my body on construction scaffolds and pouring concrete until my knuckles bled. She looked me dead in the eye. "I want to be fair." Fair. That word tasted like battery acid coming from her. "We never had a prenup," she said. "And technically, most of those payments went into a joint account." Technically, there it was. I turned and called for Brandy. She stepped out a moment later, hair up in a messy bun, hoodie half-zipped, coffee in hand. No makeup, no performance, just real. Her eyes locked on my ex. Her voice didn't shake. "Everything he gave you? Consider it paid in full." My ex blinked. Once, twice. That was the first time she saw Brandy. And the last time she underestimated her. David, the lawyer, spoke next. "We're not here to fight. We're here to negotiate a clean resolution." Brandy cut him off. "You came to the wrong door for clean." I took the envelope, shut the door, and didn't open it until after dinner. Brandy made us chili, cheap but good. We ate it on the porch, blankets over our laps, my dog curled up at our feet. The stars were out. The night was quiet. And when I finally flipped open that folder, I realized something important. This wasn't about money. It was about narrative. She wanted a version of the story where she wasn't the villain. Where she could tell people it ended because things got messy or we couldn't agree on finances. Where she could make me out to be petty, spiteful, greedy. But the receipts? They did the opposite. They told the truth. And the truth was brutal. I paid for everything. Every goddamn thing. Down to the scrubs she wore during rotations. Brandy looked through the documents with me. Her brow furrowed the deeper she got. "You were her whole life support system," she said. "She wants retroactive emotional bankruptcy." I nodded. "She's not getting a dime." The next day, I called my own lawyer. His name's Doug. Works out of a converted garage, smells like menthols and victory. Old friend of my uncle. Doesn't smile much, but he gets results. I handed him the folder. Doug read it twice. Then said one sentence. She's got nothing. A week passed. Then came the email. From her. Subject line, closure. It started with legalese, dipped into nostalgia, tried to weaponize guilt by paragraph 4. Said she'd moved on from the romance but needed equity recognition. My favorite line? I am not seeking revenge. I'm seeking acknowledgement. So I replied. 2 lines. You got acknowledgement the day I paid your tuition. You got closure the day you walked out with my keys. I didn't hear from her again for a month. But that wasn't the end. Because karma? Karma finally showed up. And it brought friends. It started with a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Michael? Yes. This is Kendra. I'm Dr. Marshall's former partner. Ryan Marshall. Her big upgrade. The man she left me for. Turns out, he had a habit. Not just of cheating. Of grooming. He'd left a trail of nurses, interns, and med students behind him like a snake sheds skin. And Kendra? She'd finally had enough. He was under review. Hospital administration had opened an investigation. Multiple women had come forward. Texts. Photos. HR complaints. And guess who was named in the initial filings? My ex. Her name keeps coming up, Kendra said. Some of the interns said she recruited them. Told them Ryan could make things happen if they were cooperative. I was silent. What do you want from me? I asked. She sighed. I want you to know you weren't the only one he used. Or the only one she helped him use. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad. Because I felt something that scared me more than anything else. Nothing. No rage. No sadness. Just distance. Like I'd finally drifted so far from the version of me who loved her that I couldn't even remember what his voice sounded like. Brandy noticed. She always does. Want to go somewhere? She asked. I nodded. We packed up that night. Drove 6 hours west. Cabin in the mountains. No signal. No noise. Just firewood, bad coffee, and healing. She didn't ask about the envelope. Or the lawyer. Or Kendra. She just sat with me while I finally let go. When we came back, I burned the wedding album. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. It wasn't our story anymore. It was evidence from a crime scene. The past is a haunting house and I'm not paying rent there anymore. Edit 1. No, I didn't keep any photos. Not even the good ones. Nostalgia is a scam when it's built on betrayal. Edit 2. Yes, Brandy knew everything before we got together. She said she wanted the whole truth, not the resume version of me. She got it. And she stayed. Update 2, she tried to sue me and accidentally exposed herself to the IRS. She didn't show up at my door this time. She showed up in my mailbox. Registered letter. Certified. My name scrawled in stiff cursive like it was written through gritted teeth. It was a lawsuit. She was suing me for restitution of contributions during marriage, emotional distress, and my personal favorite, loss of professional opportunities. I read it once. Twice. Then burst out laughing so hard I choked on my coffee and had to sit down. Brandy didn't laugh. She paced. This is going to get ugly, she said, reading the pages with me. I didn't need a psychic to tell me what was happening. She'd hit rock bottom. And now she wanted to dig me up and throw me under it. But the best part? She'd included an itemized list of her damages. $78,000 in emotional investments. $14,500 in shared travel not reimbursed. $3,200 in professional attire she couldn't use post-divorce. And wait for it, $96,000 in unpaid support for career development facilitation. She'd literally invoiced me for believing in her. I forwarded everything to Doug, my lawyer. Doug called me that night, laughing so hard I could barely understand him. She itemized her trauma, he said. Who does that? But then his voice shifted. Michael. She attached her financial records. I paused. Okay, you're going to want to come in for this. Next morning, I'm in Doug's office, sipping bad vending machine coffee, while he lays out a stack of tax forms, bank statements, and receipts. Turns out, in trying to prove how much I owe her, she submitted documents that contradicted her own taxes. Trips she claimed as work expenses were suddenly vacation losses. Gifts marked as client outreach were now shared marital property. Even her tuition, she claimed she paid it herself on 2 years' filings, while attaching my bank deposits to this lawsuit. Doug grinned. She just admitted to tax fraud. In writing. In court. That's when I realized this wasn't a lawsuit. It was a confession. She wanted to shake me down. Instead, she blew up her own paper trail. We filed a motion to dismiss within 24 hours, citing malicious prosecution, lack of standing, and, you guessed it, fraudulent documentation. The judge didn't throw it out immediately. Instead, he scheduled a hearing and ordered both parties to produce full financial disclosure. Doug leaned back in his chair. This just became fun. Meanwhile, I get a message from a mutual acquaintance. Someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey, saw your ex is in a legal mess. Just so you know, she's been saying you ran off with her money, that you emotionally manipulated her into giving up her dream job, and now you're trying to destroy her. Cool, cool, cool. So she was building a narrative again. No surprise there. What did surprise me? She got a lawyer from one of those flashy Instagram firms. You know the kind, neon logos, TikToks about boss babe divorces. Hashtags like hashtag queen with a case. And her lawyer? A 26-year-old named Talia who apparently thought courtrooms were run on manifesting energy and crop-top charisma. Doug was giddy. This is going to be biblical, he said. 2 weeks later, we were in court. Let me paint the picture. I showed up in a tailored charcoal suit, black tie, hair slicked back. Brandy didn't come. She said this wasn't her war, but she made sure my collar was straight before I left. My ex showed up with Talia, wearing a power blazer over a silk dress that screamed, Instagram reel, not federal court. She didn't look at me, didn't have to, because I saw her the second she walked in. Saw the way she scanned the gallery. Saw the way she smiled when people whispered. Saw the way she expected this to be her stage. But court isn't a TED Talk. It's a meat grinder with a dress code. Doug let her talk first. She painted the whole sob story. Spoke in soft, wounded tones about sacrifice and shattered dreams. Said she gave me the best years of her life. Cried when she mentioned the ramen nights. Emotional damages, she whispered, and unacknowledged contributions to his business success. Doug waited, then stood, and burned it all down. He submitted financials, taxes, contracts, even the timestamps from her Instagram posts showing she wasn't, in fact, emotionally distressed, but vacationing in Tulum while I was flipping houses alone. Then came the hammer. Doug presented her contradictory filings, pointed out the discrepancies, even quoted her own caption from a 2019 post. Paid my own way through med school. No man can say he made me. The judge squinted, then asked her one question. Ma'am, did you submit fraudulent documents to this court? She froze. Talia jumped in. Your Honor, I believe my client misunderstood the... No, the judge said. She submitted tax documents under penalty of perjury. If those documents contradict her prior filings, that is a federal issue. And just like that, the case cracked. Within 5 minutes, it was dismissed. Within 10, Doug filed a motion for legal fees. And by lunch, she was under IRS review. But that wasn't the end. Because as we were leaving the courthouse, Talia stopped us in the hallway. She looked like she wanted to cry or throw up. I didn't know, she said. She told me he abandoned her. Said he erased her from the lease and drained their accounts. Doug didn't even blink. She lied. That's what she does. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Talia reached into her bag, handed me a USB drive. She recorded you, she whispered. Phone calls, voicemails, even some arguments. She planned to leak them online. Frame you as unstable. I stared. She told me you hit her, Talia added quietly. I believed her. Doug took the drive. We'll handle it. That night, we didn't celebrate. We just sat on the porch. Me, Brandy, and silence. The kind of silence that doesn't ache anymore. The kind that says, it's over. The kind that says, you survived. Edit 1. To the person who asked if I've forgiven her, no. But I don't hate her either. That would imply I still care. I don't. Edit 2. Yes, the IRS review is real. I can't comment on the specifics, but her lawyer dropped her 5 days after the hearing. Make of that what you will. Edit 3. I'm not done building. Brandy and I just closed on our second property. This time, we're flipping it together. Full circle. Update 3. Her dad came to apologize, but he didn't come alone. And what he said changed everything. I heard the knock before sunrise. Barely light out. Same porch. Same sound. But this time, it wasn't her. It was her father. And standing behind him, arms crossed and looking everywhere but at me, was her mother. Let me back up. I hadn't seen either of them since that graduation day 2 years and change ago when they smiled politely while their daughter torched the life I built and handed the ashes to a man with a scalpel and a god complex. Her dad, Mark, was always quiet. Blue collar. Old school. Didn't say much back then. Just nodded along while his wife bragged about their daughter's future and side-eyed my work boots. But now, he looked different. Tired. Weathered. Like life had been peeling layers off him one at a time since the day she left. He took off his cap when I opened the door. Can we talk? I didn't say yes. Didn't say no. Just held the door open a crack and waited. We won't stay long, her mom added. Voice tight. Like she was still trying to control the room even when she wasn't in it. They stepped inside. Didn't sit. Mark looked around the house like he was walking through a museum of bad decisions. His eyes landed on a photo of me and Brandy on our kitchen counter next to a worn-out copy of The Old Man and the Sea. He exhaled, like a man bracing for recoil. I owe you an apology. The silence was heavy. I saw what she did, he said. Saw how she spun it. Watched her tear your name down to keep hers floating. He looked over at his wife. She told us you abandoned her. Said you emptied the accounts and disappeared. I nodded. She lied. He nodded back. I know that now. Then he pulled something from his coat pocket. A letter. Not folded. Not creased. Typed. Clean. He handed it to me. I wrote this a month ago. Didn't send it. Didn't think you'd read it. But then, well, then things changed. I scanned the first few lines. It wasn't performative. It wasn't defensive. It was raw. He talked about regret. Talked about how he'd spent most of his life working with his hands and couldn't understand why I didn't fight back when she left. Talked about how at first he thought silence meant guilt. But now I know the letter read your silence was the loudest thing in the room. He said he'd watched the court fall out. Said friends from their church started asking questions. Said it hit him hardest when his co-workers started bringing it up when a man who barely speaks more than 5 words a day asked, did your daughter really try to sue the guy who paid for her dreams? And then came the twist. He pulled out a second envelope. Smaller. Inside? A photograph. Of her. Sitting alone in a therapist's office. Handwritten note on the back. Session 1, for the record. I stared. Her mom finally spoke. She's in therapy now. Court mandated after the fraud review started. IRS is circling. Medical board is involved. She's not practicing. I said nothing. She's unraveling, her mom whispered. But not the way you think. Not loud. Not destructive. Just fading. Mark looked at the floor. She finally admitted she never wanted to be a doctor. That hit me like a slap. What? She wanted to teach, her mom muttered. Art. History. But we told her that wasn't a real future. So she pivoted. Mark nodded. She was good at it. Memorizing. Performing. But it was never hers. Suddenly the puzzle came together. The burnout. The bitterness. The way she clung to Dr. Ryan like he was a shortcut to the version of herself she was too tired to fake anymore. She didn't betray me for him. She betrayed herself long before either of us were in the picture. And I was just collateral. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Her mom looked up. Because we want you to know it wasn't all your fault. Then she added, barely above a whisper. And because we might lose her. That pulled me up short. Lose her how? She's spiraling, Mark said. Won't talk to anyone but the therapist. Barely leaves the apartment. Drinks too much. Can't sleep. Keeps calling people who stopped answering. He didn't say Brandy's name. Didn't have to. Because I knew that even now, in her most broken state, my life was still a measure she failed to meet. But here's the thing. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt nothing. Just tired. I looked at her mom. You raised her to think love was a transaction. That security came with dollar signs and dinner parties. Then at Mark. And you stood there, silent, watching her destroy someone who would have set himself on fire just to keep her warm. He nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't beg. I know, he said. I came to say sorry. That's all. I nodded. Then handed him both envelopes. I don't need these. He hesitated. Then tucked them back into his coat. They left. Didn't look back. That night, Brandy and I stood on the roof of our duplex, watching the city buzz below. She didn't ask what they wanted. She just handed me a drink and waited. I told her everything. She listened, then said, you know what I admire most about you? I shrugged. You walked away without burning the house down. But somehow, it still collapsed behind you. I smiled. Didn't say much. Just held her hand while the past finally stopped knocking. Because that's what closure really is. Not forgiveness. Not revenge. Just silence. And peace. And the knowledge that the person who hurt you is finally facing a mirror they can't escape. Epilogue. It's been 3 months. We sold the duplex. Bought a cottage outside the city. Brandy's growing herbs on the windowsill. I'm restoring old furniture in the garage. Her dad emails sometimes. Updates. Progress reports. Photos of their family dog. No mention of her. Just silence. I kept one thing from the whole mess. The screwdriver I grabbed the day I left. It hangs on the garage wall. A reminder of what I carried. Of what I let go. And of how heavy freedom can feel in your hand when it's earned, not given. So to anyone reading this, if they ever tell you you're not enough, let them go. And build something so strong they feel the quake from miles away. Edit 1. For everyone asking, no, she never reached out again. And if she does, she won't get through the gate. Edit 2. Yes, the therapy was real. I confirmed it. Not because I care, but because I needed to know the truth finally caught up with her. Edit 3. To the person who said, you should have fought harder. Nah, I didn't lose. I learned. And I'd take wisdom over a win any day.